Thanks ever so much for joining us here at the National Marine Aquarium. I'm Joe, I'm the curriculum lead teacher for the STEM crew. We're here with SailGP Team GBR and the Ocean Conservation Trust, and we've got an absolutely fantastic opportunity to talk to some amazing, inspiring women in STEM and participants from careers all around the marine sector. And I am really excited to find out some of the answers to some of our questions. One of the most important things for us today is that you guys are going to be sending in questions and letting us know what you want to find out. That would be absolutely brilliant. So to start off, we've got a couple of questions for these guys that we've got ready. So if we could start off with Emily, what we'd like to find out is, can you introduce yourself? Tell me what your job role is and what connects you to the ocean.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Nagel and I am a professional sailor currently trialling with SailGP GBR team here in Plymouth. What connects me to the ocean is probably the fact that I was born in Bermuda, which is a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic. So I grew up in the water, on the water, from the moment I could walk. I was in love with being by the ocean, and it's always stayed part of who I am.
Sounds absolutely amazing. Thanks very much for letting us know. Alexandra, could you answer the same question for us, please?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Alexandra Rickum. I'm the Diversity and Impact Manager at SailGP. So dealing with sustainability and diversity in different formats. And my love for the ocean also is kind of similar to Emily. I grew up in Jamaica, spent my childhood there, and so saw the sea every day and spent most of my time on the water or in the water most of the time. So that's kind of where it's come from. And yeah, and I was a Paralympic sailor for 10 years as well. So got to spend a lot of time on it. And that's, created my passion.
Amazing connection there. Thanks very much. Mel.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Melanie Roberts and I lead race management for SailGP, which is essentially running and officiating the races. And just like Emily and Alexandra, I grew up in and on the water in San Diego. So that's where I developed my love and connection to the ocean.
Oh, we've got such a great diversity in different places, different parts of the ocean. It's awesome. And S, how about you?
Yes, good morning everyone. My name's Esther. I'm one of the scientists here at the Ocean Conservation Trust at the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth. And my main role here is as an education officer. And my connection to the ocean probably started, I was very lucky to learn to scuba dive very young and led into being a scuba instructor. And my love for the ocean just stemmed from there. And now I do anything on, in or under the water, sports and recreationally. So yeah, a real love for the place.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for letting us know. So obviously we're in the city, Plymouth here. We're waiting for the SailGP event this weekend, the British event. So Mel, you've got a pretty big weekend coming up. Can you tell us what you're going to be getting up to this weekend and how much work you've got to get done?
Yeah, so as I said, we're in charge of running the races. That is the race department. And so ahead of this event, been doing a lot of prep, working with the Queen's Harbor Master to identify the racing area and obtain a permit to exclusively use some of the water space. And so in order to identify the space we need, we sort of need to draw a course for almost every wind direction to ensure we cover a range of conditions in the space that we need. And as far as other things, it's just a matter of logistics. We have to get people to set the marks and marshal the course just to ensure safe and fair racing. And another part of it is the technology in SailGP is pretty amazing. And so we've been able to reduce the amount of people that we fly around the world to events. So we actually have half of our umpire team officiating from the broadcast studio in London and the other half from literally their living rooms at home. So just here, we're doing some testing now just to make sure all the software and radio links are working so that we can communicate with one another. But yeah, other than that, just putting the final touches together today and our first rehearsal day is tomorrow, so looking forward to it.
That sounds amazing. So you've got a load of people actually working from their living rooms at home.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. So has that come up because of as a COVID thing, or just to your work for Powered by Nature and to make sure you're increasing your green credentials?
To be honest, it's both. We did have this vision. We didn't know we would bring it to the surface so soon. We thought, eventually the technology would be good enough that we could have people operating from offsite. But then we implemented it sooner than we expected just because of the COVID travel complications and such.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, thanks for letting us know. So to be a race manager, obviously a really tricky, like many different areas of study for it. But what did you study to get into race management?
Nothing really. I studied psychology and nutrition and health promotion in university, but certainly took a different path after graduation. And instead of using my degree, I got a job at the St. Francis Yacht Club as their race coordinator, which was pretty awesome. And I learned a lot about race management there. And from there, it was just sort of right place, right time, because the America's Cup came to San Francisco and I was able to get an opportunity with that. And then the following cups in Bermuda and New Zealand. And now I'm here with SailGP, but not really doing psychology.
So that's a really good, it shows that you don't need to necessarily study something to then go and get a job in something else. That's brilliant. So let's move on to Emily. You're a professional sailor. I would call you kind of a big deal. How is your background in STEM? How does that help you in your career?
So originally I studied engineering at university. I went into naval architecture at the University of Southampton doing ship science. But then that kind of all linked together with sailing, because once I graduated, I got involved with SoftBank Team Japan at the previous America's Cup, which gave me this huge opportunity to kind of combine the world of engineering and sailing. At that time, I was on the shore side, but really knew that what I wanted to do was be the one on the water. So I pursued kind of the more professional sailing side after that. But everyone kind of still, all professional sailors, you still have like your side job, what you do on the side to support it. So I kind of used my degree to kind of continue with some engineering jobs, but also go into data analysis. And I found that really helped my understanding of how to push a boat faster. And, I really understood the technical side of the different boats I was sailing, whether that's my foiling moth or going offshore on big boats. A huge part of it is kind of understanding how everything works and figuring out every little thing you can do to just get that little extra bit of speed. So they kind of go hand in hand quite nicely.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And I suppose you can't sail without that STEM influence. Can you give me a specific example of where you put your STEM knowledge to make you go that little bit faster?
So one of the things I do, particularly on big boats, but have also kind of previously done with SailGP and the data side, is we work on creating polars for a boat and figuring out kind of what angles you should be sailing in certain wind conditions in order to get the best BMG, as in how you can get to your final destination as fast as possible. So with different sails, you sail at different angles depending on what type of sail it is. So it's kind of maximizing the knowledge we know about the boat, about the setup, so that when you're steering the boat and driving, you know what you're doing in order to get there first.
That sounds fantastic. No, thanks ever so much for letting us know. So S, moving on to you. You're a marine biologist at the Ocean Conservation Trust. Can you tell me a little bit about your day-to-day life and how you use STEM and how it comes into your job?
Yeah, definitely. I've got to concentrate now. I've just got excited about thinking about really fast boats this weekend after hearing Emily. But yeah, my role here in education is really linked to STEM, obviously, as a science communicator, working with young people locally who come in-house and also on outreach events, taking them rock crawling, beach cleaning. I just communicated to them about wonderful ocean and how it's connected to us and how we're connected to the ocean. So that involves a lot of science knowledge and obviously passion for my topic. And then more practically, I suppose, in-house, a role in husbandry involves a lot of STEM links because, well, there's diving in the tanks to keep them clean, there's a lot of cleaning involved, lots of feeding, mathematics involved in measuring out the right amount of medication, weighing out their lunch boxes in the morning and then weighing them again after feeds. We've got to make sure that we're on point with that information so that we can ensure the health of the animals and make sure we keep good records and data keeping. So STEM is linked throughout my role, not just in education, but also practical sides. Of course, there's also the data collection dives, particularly with exciting habitat restoration projects that we're doing. For example, the seagrass restoration involving lots of surveying, podtrack sampling and so on. So there's lots of STEM skills involved in lots of aspects of my role.
Oh, that sounds absolutely awesome. And obviously, this week you've been working with us on the live lessons on Monday and Tuesday, and I was in awe of your knowledge of just general marine biology. It was brilliant. So what did you study to get into this career?
Well, this is where you find out the terrible secret. I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. So I went to university studying subjects I liked at school. I liked biology and psychology, which I did as a joint honours, and decided to teach science because I love teaching and I loved science, and it seemed like a natural progression. And from there, I realised my passion for teaching, and I wanted to teach something I loved even more, which was scuba diving, and that was what got me into the conservation side and the marine biology. And it was through that sort of side door, if you like, of in the field experience, dive sampling, working with Operation Wallace here, and university students abroad, which linked me into lots of conservation projects and helped me fall in love even more with the ocean and wanting to do more for it, which led me here to the Ocean Conservation Trust when I realised, yeah, conservation really does start at home, and I wanted to make that have an impact in education here at home, working with the Ocean Conservation Trust, both out in the field and particularly with education, with our ocean curriculum and this whole new wave in the decade of the ocean to make a revolution in the young people of today and helping them be ocean champions. Yeah, it's definitely been a bit of a long journey and not necessarily your traditional route into marine sciences, but I think the key link there is just focusing on what your passions are and making sure that's at the forefront, because as long as I'm sure you're going to notice from these amazing women in this conversation today, it's their passion that really shines through for what they do, and our passion for STEM.
Oh, thanks so much. That sounds, yeah, and it's great to hear that people are getting into careers by not the direct route that it's something that when I was teaching would be something that I would always hope that students would learn, that there isn't just one route into these things. There are many different ways you can get into it, and not to panic straight away if you don't think you're going straight down the right route, that you can get there through other routes. If you really want to do it, you can get there by yourself. Now, Alexandra, I've been waiting to speak to you because I remember seeing you when I was younger, sailing around Weymouth. I thought your boat was awesome, and it was just brilliant. So I was hoping to get to the bottom of your amazing sailing career and find out some of the challenges that you've overcome to get where you are and your role now.
Okay. So from my sailing career is a little bit of an accident in certain ways. I'm going to be honest, a little bit like the other stories you've heard. And, so I had a passion for the sea, and I was really attracted to sailing. And though I don't come from a sailing family, I don't come from a sailing background. And basically when the Scud 18, which was the boat that I sailed in the Paralympics, came into play, I fit, like a lot of other Paralympians, I fit the requirements for it, and somebody offered me the opportunity to learn and to upskill. And so, obviously I grabbed at it with both hands, and and basically that was my path. And I was very lucky because British Sailing took me on board and accelerated my path to be able to compete at the games, etc. And then in terms of my personal experience and kind of getting to where I am with SailGP, you know, I had a diving accident. So I had a water-based accident, a shallow diving accident when I was 13 years old. And the hardest thing for me to do was to return to school, because I returned to the school as a wheelchair user, and actually just going from being a really sporty child, you know, I went to suddenly using a wheelchair and kind of having to really, you know, and I decided to actually dedicate myself really to my education, because I think a lot of people thought, you know, they had misconceptions that my physical disability was also a cognitive disability, and they kind of couldn't decipher between the two. And so I had a lot to kind of prove, I guess, in certain ways. And so I you know, basically loaded, you know, my education, decided that I really, really wanted to have a career, you know, that was going to be able to showcase that my mind was working, basically. And so I studied biology and chemistry, and I did a bit of math, and went through to university, and then went sailing for 10 years, and eventually decided to combine my time in sport with my background in environmental sciences, and got this role at SailGP, and you know, ran their sustainability program for 2 years, and now I've moved over to diversity and inclusion to hopefully an impact to just try and drive further change in sailing as a sport, and hopefully have SailGP leading and on the forefront of that.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing this. I mean, what an amazing story, and I think it's something that we often talk about at school is resilience. And after watching the England game, I know Frank Lampard was talking a lot about resilience at the weekend. So I think your story just absolutely is the story of resilience. Thank you so much for letting us know about that. So to carry on our sailing theme, our next question is to Emily and Alexandra, but we can also go on to talking about this because you're all sailors anyway. What has been the highlight of your career? I mean, there must have been hundreds of them, but if you could just give me that one that you think was your highlight.
That's a pretty difficult question, the one highlight, but I think it's got to be going around Cape Horn in the Volvo Ocean Race. It had been just this incredibly tough race up until that point, going through the Southern Ocean, just crazy conditions, and emotionally as a team we'd been through a lot, and just finally getting to Cape Horn, which was like this moment I'd dreamed of since I was really little, and I'd read books about Ellen MacArthur sailing around the world, and Cape Horn was the thing you had to do, you had to tick off, and just getting there with this team, it meant the world to me, and it's still something I think that, you know, I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. So I think that kind of wins as the highlight. It was but something that I'll always be really proud of.
I can imagine that must be absolutely amazing. But surely when you're racing and you're going past Cape Horn, do you get any real time to sort of think about how nice it is to go past it, or are you just always in race mode?
Well, you're always in race mode. You don't really stop racing, but there were definitely, you know, we got the full crew up on deck for, you know, the half an hour when kind of the mountains first appeared, go wake everyone up, and there's a photo up on deck, but yeah, you're still racing hard. You've still got someone driving fast and people on the handles pushing the boat as fast as they can. But yeah, there's definitely that moment of just taking it in and really, you know, enjoying the moment.
Sounds amazing. Wow, thanks for letting us know. And Alexandra, how about you? What would you say? I know you were number one for 10 years, something.
No, I wasn't as long as that. I think mine pales into insignificance with Cape Horn. I think that sounds mind-blowing. But no, I think my number one probably highlight, which is going to sound weird, is our first world title that myself and my sailing partner won, because we had a really tough year coming out of Beijing. We were underfunded, and And really, I guess going back to the resilience piece and being underestimated and stuff, we had to do everything on a shoestring. And we set the goal of winning the world championships at the end of the year, and literally did everything we could to be able to make that happen. And, you know, beg, borrow, and stole in terms of asking for favors. And it just to be able to lift that trophy at the end of the year just meant the world to both of us. And it was really a pinnacle moment and opened up the rest of, you know, the next kind of 9 years of racing for us, and the, you know, and successes. So that was a career highlight.
That sounds amazing. I'm sure bringing all those, how difficult was it to get all of those, or all those ducks in a row, I suppose, to be able to make that achievement?
It was really difficult that year. You know, like I said, we were quite underfunded at that point. And so we literally decided that the US team were the best team at that point in time. And so we reached out to them and got them to lend us a boat for free. And we just, you know, shoestring, you know, put together our money, got on a plane, went to the US for a whole summer, sailed against them, came second against them in every single regatta for that entire year. And then finally, the one regatta that we wanted, we turned it around for. So I think that was, it was, you know.
How do you keep that resilience going if you are coming second every time, and then you somehow manage to get the biggest event? How do you keep that going? It must be.
I think it's just it's the dream, isn't it? It's the goal. Like, I think you're always gonna want to try and get there, aren't you? You know, and I think going back to like what Emily was saying, like, you know, that ultimate dream of being able to get around Cape Horn, you know, it was probably touch and go the entire way, especially if the weather was, you know, sketchy and stuff. So actually just knowing that it's in the distance. And I think the main thing is that you don't give up on your dream. You don't give up on your passions. You know, that's the main thing I can say to any of the young people watching right now, is just like, keep pushing forward, because, you know, even if you're unsuccessful, you learn so much about yourself on that journey. And that's really, really important in terms of progressing in your career.
I couldn't agree more. And you guys have a lot more experience in that sort of thing than I do. So it's really great for you to be letting people at home know about that. Mel, what would you say is your, maybe not in a racing sense, but well, at least not on a boat, but in your race management career, what would you say is your highlight?
Yeah, I was going to say that's a very unfair question after these two, because my sailing highlights is nothing at the level that they've reached. But let's see, that's also a tough one. Honestly, I've been pretty lucky to work with some major events, and I can't pick one favorite race management moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, so what would you say is your what was your favorite location to work in terms of all those mad, crazy, massive events you've done?
Also a tough one, but I'm gonna have to go with New Zealand for the last America's Cup. It was a very great place to be, especially during COVID world.
Sure, I imagine it must have been really tricky. So changing the subject slightly, could you let us know a little bit about what's going on behind you in that tank? Could you introduce some of your friends?
I'm glad you didn't ask me about my most inspiring sailing experience, because it would not be like some of these that we just had. But yeah, I can tell you about our Atlantic Ocean tank here. It's the deepest tank in the country, which we're quite proud of. And it's got some of our largest animals here at the aquarium. We've got 10 sharks in here, 3 different species, and well, 4 if you include our little zebra shark that's in here as well. And actually, Corrector Friday is also cruising around behind me. And we use this one to connect people with warmer water climates when they're on their ocean journey around our aquarium. This will be the second large tank that they reach as they journey through the world's ocean. So we talked about this one as our open ocean habitat. And it's one of the hardest ones to clean because there's a whole lot of perspex to scrub and lots of pests and enemies to keep under control. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's also home to our very friendly groupers. So when we're diving, our groupers are like little Labrador puppies. They come up and nuzzle us and want to play, and little bubble bath with our regulators. So it's quite an entertaining tank, but yeah, definitely drawing focus from me, which is quite nice.
Oh, thanks ever so much for letting us know. So I've actually got some questions from people at home. So the first one is to Esther, to carry on your little bit of chat. What projects are available to get into sailing here in Plymouth today, or during this weekend, or in the future?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I'm from Plymouth, so, well, not originally, but I've lived here for a long time when I've not been abroad. And yeah, as a non-professional sailor, it's definitely something I think is really, really important to connect people with sailing. I was involved with sail training when I was younger over in Southampton on the Hamble, and I absolutely adored it. I come from a family of sailors, which is a real privilege, but it's so important to connect young people with the ocean, and sailing is a great way to get them into it with that team building spirit. And we've got loads of projects here in Plymouth. We've got for young people, the Island Sailing Trust over at Plymouth Yacht Haven over in Mountbatten. I used to work with them back in the day, and they connect young people with sailing from all sorts of places, people from Wales, people from locally here, getting them out on the water, working together. A lot of them are old wooden boats, so gaff rigs, and a lot of sweating and tailing, so not quite as fast paced as some of the amazing boats we're going to see this weekend, but certainly really a chance for young people to get together, learn about being on the water, learn about life at sea, and sometimes even just learning how to cook a meal for the crew. And those are really, really valuable skills, which I think is so important. There's even things to connect people who are older. There's projects like the Tectonic Trust, which is for adults who do corporate trips, but they also do things for vulnerable adults and people struggling with mental health issues, because of the value of just being on the water, the power of the blue. It's so important for all of our well-being. So loads of sailing companies locally are tapping in on that and just trying to get as many people out in the water as possible. As far as this weekend's concerned, I'm sure there's other people at school that tell us more about what's involved, but just getting down there, coming to watch, feeling inspired by some of these amazing people and amazing vessels that are going to be in action right in front of us. So yeah, find a way to get involved this weekend, get out on the water, get on a boat. Obviously stay clear of the race zones. I'm sure Mel will be very happy if we keep well out of their way, but definitely get involved, and there'll be some amazing people to speak to. So come on down.
Brilliant, thanks ever so much for that. So my next question is to Mel and Emily. What advice would you give to young women who want to get into science/marine careers? Emily, do you want to start us off? What advice would you give?
So my advice would mostly be just chase after the subjects that you really enjoy. STEM careers can be quite challenging. You know, it's a lot of work, especially, when you go to university. So you really need to pick subjects that you enjoy, not necessarily the ones that you think are the right subjects to do. It's like, if you love biology, go study biology, or vice versa. If it's maths and physics, then do that. There's no point kind of forcing yourself to go into engineering because you think, that's a really secure career. It is, but you're not going to enjoy university for 4 years if it's not something you're really passionate about. So just make sure that whatever you do is something that you love doing, and then the rest will just come easy, and that's when you find kind of the place that you really belong and the job that you're really going to enjoy.
Thanks very much, that's awesome. Mel, how about you? What advice would you give to?
I would say just always say yes to any opportunity in sailing, whether that's coaching at a yacht club or volunteering for a race committee or crewing on a boat that needs an extra crew. The sailing community is large, but at the same time, it's a really small world. And, I always say it's not what you know, but who you know sometimes. And the more you put yourself out there, the more people you'll meet, and the more people that will keep you in mind when opportunities might come up that you'd be a good fit for.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much. Yeah, I think it's certainly if you're in a coastal city and there's some yacht racing going on, there's always people to meet through. If you ever want to get involved, go down and ask around. If you're always keen to get involved, but then it works, I'm sure, in the Ocean Conservation Trust in the aquarium. I know you have a lot of volunteers as well. What are the opportunities like for getting involved here?
Here at the Ocean Conservation Trust, yeah, we are really, really lucky that we are in Britain's Ocean City with lots of passionate undergrads, not far from our doorstep, who are very, very keen to come and get involved with our internship programme. So we have internships on husbandry, and they are absolutely vital. People that come and join us and learn for 3 months on various different roles here, particularly with the diving as well. We've got a volunteer diving programme that take people in the water and get them helping us scrubbing that. And many panels of glass that we need to keep clean. But also we have a volunteer programme where volunteers can come in and engage with the public, front of house as rangers, and they are invaluable to the whole company. That's actually how I first got connected here with the aquarium when I was an undergraduate at Plymouth. I was a volunteer here, and yes, long journey in between, and then found my way back again. But yeah, there's loads of opportunities to get involved. If people want to find out more, get in touch or check out the website for internship program and volunteer program.
Thanks very much. That's awesome, and I know it would be an absolutely amazing place to be able to get an opportunity to be in. Just being here is fantastic. So we've got another question come through, and it's to Alex. And somebody's asked, what gave you the strength to overcome your lifestyle change? Obviously, when you were younger, what did you? I know you challenged your education as well, but could you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Sure. I mean, I was really lucky, and I think also when you're younger, everything's quite black and white, you know. So it's like the things that were important to me were my family and my friends, getting back to school. So kind of that was my big focus when I had, was in rehab for almost a year essentially. But I think also I was really lucky. I had an incredibly supportive family. My mom didn't let me get away with a lot. So she just kind of, she always had the same expectations on me that she'd always had. And so I got pushed quite hard by her. But that was really good because she never underestimated me. And that's always, I think that's the hardest thing when you have a disability. And I think also, the facts are that I'm a person of color with a disability who's female. So kind of representing a cross section of diversity, I guess, in many ways. And I think, underestimation is like the hardest thing from other people. And so I think I was given the confidence to be able to push past that and recognize actually that I could bring value to everything that I do in different ways. And and I just bring that level of passion, I think, that my mom put into me. I've, and my parents put into me. I've, applied that in my daily life, really.
That's awesome. Thanks for letting us know. So it's absolutely amazing to hear. Mel, I've got a question for you from Scarlett Harris. And she has said, what advice do you have to start a career in race logistics? So in what you do?
Yeah, so I think kind of a similar answer to before is basically start where you can, whether that's, coaching at your yacht club or volunteering for race committee or crewing on a boat. Sorry to repeat that, but I just think it's pretty important to get your foot in the door wherever you can in sailing. And then from there, you'll meet people that will know people that are looking for people to fill positions, and, don't be afraid to put your hand up for anything.
Sure. I think I think it's slightly different in the States compared to the UK. In the UK, it's quite often in the local clubs, it's more volunteer driven. But certainly from my experience is that if you're a racer and you're a sailor and you're a member of a yacht club or a sailing club, there is loads of opportunities, certainly in Plymouth, to be able to get involved in race officering and managing races, because there's never enough. People are always screaming out for people to help. So certainly going to your local club and asking and saying, can I help out? They will 100% say yes, because there's never
exactly no one's going to turn down help. And then I'm sure it varies by region, but there are different race management courses you can take to learn how to be more effective on the race committee and all that. So yeah.
Thanks very much. Awesome. So I've got another question. And this is to everybody. It's from Gian Kirkland. And it says, to all of you, which 3 skills are most important in your role? So I'll start with the easiest one because it's top left of my screen. Emily, what were the top 3 skills in your role, in your group? Go on. Emily, I believe you're on mute, by the way.
It wouldn't be a Zoom call without that line, would it?
Exactly.
It's a really good question and quite difficult to kind of like pick 3, but I would say kind of the biggest one is just determination. You know, it's anything within like marine, STEM, it all takes a lot of determination to get into a place, get a foot in the door, you know, make those contacts, putting yourself out there. You have to really want it. As a professional sailor, you know, it's been a very slow process going from kind of just getting on boats in the first place, let alone actually making a career out of this. And so yeah, it's a case of kind of always pushing yourself and sticking with it. And then also I think a really good skill to have is always being able to keep that positive mindset. Whatever career you go into, whether it's sailing or STEM or something completely different, you're going to get rejections. There's going to be times when things don't go your way, when you're trialing, when you're interviewing, and it's not letting those moments get you down. For me as a sailor, you know, we have those moments every day, every race. You know, you get yourself into a position that might not be great, and you've got to stay positive, focus on what you can do, and keep pushing. And a third one, probably just being proactive, thinking ahead, whether that's, you know, actually sailing for me and thinking ahead on the race course about, you know, what's the next move, what are we going to do, being ready for it, to also like the shore side, and making sure that, you know, we're doing everything we can to make sure the boat's ready to go, like thinking ahead at things like the data and what can we look at and how can we get faster, kind of always being on the balls of your feet, ready to go, ready to take on the challenge.
Oh, thanks very much. That sounds, yeah, I can imagine those 3 are really important. Mel, what are the 3 skills you would say are most important to your role?
To be calm and adaptable. Sorry, that's kind of 2 in 1, but there are constant adjustments that need to be made in my world, and it's never perfect. And even when you think it is, there's always a last minute change that requires something else to be changed. So you just got to stay calm and be ready to adapt to anything. Not to completely steal Emily's proactive, because that's a good one, but I guess work hard, because the more you do, the more people will talk you up and the more opportunities will come your way. And yeah, always.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. S, how about you? What are your 3 skills you would say are most important in your role?
Yeah, I think, positivity is so important, because there will be failures along the way. But that's what makes the successes all the more sweet. So definitely just be positive, and that leads to the second one is perseverance. So just keep trying. If you find you're in something that isn't working for you, it doesn't bring you joy, persevere with it, and then make a change, take action, like the others were saying, sort of find opportunities and go for them. And the last skill, I think in my role, and probably in many of these roles, is self-care. So making sure you stay connected with what first inspired you into what you're pursuing. So for me, it's getting out on the water as often as I can, just to clear my head and for my own well-being, not connected to Strava, not for any other reason, just get self-care, making sure that you're keeping yourself well so that you can do your absolute best in all other areas.
Brilliant, thanks very much. And Alexandra, what would you say your top 3 skills in your role?
Communication is probably what I'd put at number 1. I think working in diversity and working sustainability, it's really important to get those messages across to people and also to listen to people. It's really important to understand kind of, anything that they're struggling with or any issues that have developed. So that's, I would say, is number one. Two is being really solution focused. And I think like a STEM background actually really helps with that, because I think, you're, quite often with STEM subjects, you're having to solve problems in effect. And so I think within the sphere that I work in, being solution focused. So it kind of takes that proactivity, as actually, how do we solve this problem? Not, oh my gosh, what is the problem? And then the third thing is flexibility. So just that, and I guess that goes back to what Mel said around adaptability, just that ability to be able to change and to move with those changes and to not be flustered by it, because, the earth isn't flat, and so that's how I look at, living with a disability is like, everybody, the earth isn't flat, otherwise I could wheel everywhere. So, and it's the same in my work. It's not flat. So the reality is that there are always going to be bends in the road and there are always going to be hills. And so you just have to figure out ways to deal with those.
I think you need to come up with a quotes book of just inspirational quotes by Alexandra. That's possibly one of the best ones I've ever heard. So we're beginning to finish up. But if we could, what I'd like is one tip from everybody on how you can get involved with SailGP this weekend. And as we're here with SailGP GBR team, I know that might be tricky to get people to help celebrate if they're not particularly SailGP GBR team, and Alexandra. But if you could tell us how you can get your best way of getting involved this weekend with SailGP. Start with Emily, because you're my top level.
I think the best way to get involved this weekend is get down to the race village. I was down there this morning. The view from Plymouth Hoe is amazing. You'll be able to see all of the racing live, and it's going to be a fantastic place to watch the racing. So get your tickets and cheer for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much. Mel, what's your top tip of way to get involved and join it?
Yeah, same as Emily. I mean, the weather is really turning it on, so great time to come visit the Hoe. And if you can't, the broadcast footage is pretty phenomenal. So watch it on TV if you can't see it in person.
Brilliant, cool. Yeah, the YouTube and online video footage is fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, absolutely watch it. I had a friend who totally wasn't in sailing and has come and watched us race a few times, found it really boring. Watch SailGP, thought it was fantastic. So it really will change your life. S, what about you?
Get involved, get down on the water if you're lucky enough like Joe to have your own boat. Go out and explore, get a ticket on one of the boat trips to get an up-close view, or watch it online. There's so much accessibility involved in the setup of SailGP this year. It's been amazing. I can't believe that there's going to be anyone who's not going to be able to access it. I think everybody's going to have some way to get involved, to get connected. It's been such a buzz around the whole city in the build-up. I know a lot of you have joined us just this week, but just in the lead up to it, it's been really thrilling. So I think everyone's going to be finding a way to get connected. For me, it's going to be getting down and on the water.
What's going on up on the Hoe? You were talking about one of the live lessons the other day. Yes.
Oh yeah, so come down to the race village up in the Hoe. There are loads of solar panels. They look amazing. This whole thing is powered by nature. It's going to be fantastic. And we've got a lot of stalls from the Ocean Conservation Trust with some of those wonderful rangers I was telling you about earlier, and our public engagement team doing some virtual reality to get people literally in the water, but virtually, and also getting involved with some of our green projects, so like the seagrass project we've worked on, getting them to plant seed bombs and make green energies of their own. So all linked in with the lessons we've done earlier this week in Build Up.
Thanks very much. And Alexandra, I know it's difficult to go last when everybody's giving so many great tips, but if you can give us one, that would be fantastic.
Sure. I think obviously everything that everybody has said. I think also you can be on the lookout for the impact projects that SailGP has engaged with. So that's been alongside the OCT with the seagrass. And I think, you know, locally you can get involved with those in the long term. And also we've been involved with a solar, local solar project as well, and it's community solar and community clean energy. So I think there are really huge opportunities in terms of the legacy piece for you to be involved with SailGP, alongside SailGP, even after we've gone. So, you know, obviously come down, see the racing, get involved, see the spectacle, but also, you know, we want to know that we've left an impact in the city that's longer term.
That's brilliant. So there are so many opportunities for people to get involved this weekend, and then also in the future as well. If we can say a huge thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you so much for giving up your precious time to talk to the guys at home. I feel inspired already, so I really hope that they do, and it's been really, really brilliant to have your time. Thank you to SailGP GBR team for helping put this on. Thanks to STEM Crew and the 1851 Trust and the Ocean Conservation Trust that have made these 3 live lessons this week so awesome and fantastic with this amazing facility that we have here. So I can't thank people. And thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the other live lessons if you get to see them. They will be available soon on STEM Crew. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.